actually have more to add, even though I just thought I was done, but there's another part that I wanted to talk about. Susie, one of the serial killer's hostages, gets killed after having multiple chances to kill the serial killer. Basically, once they get in the house, they free two people that they hear making noises, muffled noises, because they had gags on their mouth for some reason, even though he never uses those again for like the entire rest of the movie that he's in. Yeah, when they go and save him, he immediately walks in, he grabs the daughter, and he holds a kitchen knife to her throat. He makes the hostage Susie tie up the two new people, the daughter and the mom, and then he starts like saying shit to Susie. Susie doesn't like that, and then she stabs him, like not even that deep in the stomach. Then she stabs him in the shoulder. She stands there both times just looking at him after pulling it out both times, and then just gets herself killed because she had plenty of chances, but she did nothing. I want to add one real quick thing since I ended the video, but I thought of some more stuff. Like, basically, I told you about the plot, right? And it's like, oh, this, that, and that about serial killers and werewolves hunting them. But they're not really being hunted. They walked to the serial killer's house because they thought it was a regular person's house and they needed to use a phone because she got her leg slashed by a werewolf. But they're never hunted. Because they killed the serial killer and then they're just stuck in the house while the werewolves try and get in, which they eventually do. There's also just like, they don't even really do what the plot says, that they're being hunted. They ran to a house. They stood outside the house. That's not being hunted. The closest thing to being hunted is when they almost ran over a werewolf. And then, while they try and drive away, it just slashes their tires like the Flash. Because the werewolves are super fast in this movie for some reason. But when the daughter's grandpa is just waddling away to the truck, the werewolves are super slow to get outside. This was very, 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 very disappointing. Like, the plot just sounds so interesting, but they fuck it up so goddamn bad. So the plot is explained, and it says two sisters, but it's a mom and a daughter. But it says two people get stranded and they ended up getting hunted by werewolves and serial killers. How do you make that not interesting? And somehow the movie got a 95% from the audience and is 60 from Rotten Tomatoes. But Amazing Spider-Man 2 couldn't even get a tomato from Rotten Tomatoes. Anyways, the werewolves look pretty bad. Not super bad, because the movie is like, the budget is only $13,000. But the werewolves look bad. One of them has green eyes for some reason. They hardly show them because of how bad they look. And some of them even, like, open doors. But, hey, it looks like the cast had fun, so there's that. Like, at one point, like, one of the doors weren't locked, and the werewolf just opens the door and walks in. Like, that's not really how it works. It's also, I love werewolves. They're like one of my favorite horror movie creatures, but I don't know like everything about them. I know silver bullets are the only thing that can kill them, and that if you get bit, you turn into a werewolf. But I'm pretty sure it's the same thing with scratching, right? The mom gets scratched in like the beginning of the movie, and she lasts the whole movie until she's killed by a werewolf. So, there's that. But, yeah, it was pretty terrible. I had high hopes for it, but it was awful. Awful, awful, awful. It had its moments. The acting was decent. But they really just didn't know what they're doing. The cover is a werewolf, and they're hardly in the movie. They're in it for a decent amount once they get stranded. Cause and then like every now and then they might like pop out. Because once they get chased out of the car, there's actually a cool way for that part. They like slide through the car, through the trunk, I think. It was a pretty cool way to escape. And eventually they find a house and they go into it, and that's the place where the serial killer lives. But yeah, the werewolves don't even try to get into the house for the whole entire movie. They just stand there, waiting for the plot to tell them what to do. And then, they only decide to start trying to break into the house, even though they know there's people in there, because why else are they just standing outside? They, finally try to get in the house after they throw the serial killer outside. They throw the serial killer outside, and two of them jump on top of him, and then they close the door. But they didn't even realize that the werewolves are out there, because they were just standing out there for the whole time. But yeah, there's about 25 minutes of them just being stuck in the serial killer's house and being tortured. And Lucy got the worst of it in this movie. She was tortured by the serial killer, and then she ended up turning into a werewolf after almost getting her arm ripped off. Because I'm pretty sure the werewolf was biting it in that scene, and she turns into a werewolf. And the grandpa shows up halfway through the movie, and he ends up saving the daughter, and they're the only ones that end up surviving. Also, I think it's like a small town, because a mailman goes missing because of the serial killer, obviously. And he only had like 3 girls there, and he's a serial killer. And he had already killed like one of them and almost killed the other one. Though he was trying to lure in the daughter and the sister, because he was asked them where they were going. He ended up bumping into them because of the werewolves. But yeah, the entire movie, hardly uses werewolves until like 10 minutes left of the movie. And then there's 10 minutes of credits. And it just dramatically ends after a flashback. And it just puts on some like undeserving music to try and make you like act like you enjoyed this awful movie. But no, I did not enjoy this movie. Second off, since it's like a small town, why is there still a killer there? You would think he would be in a bigger town. Because shouldn't that give him more of a chance to get caught? Though he was in the middle of nowhere. I don't really know, but I do know that I did not like this movie.